Jeff, how do you go about the process of evaluating a season when it all changed at the deadline? It was a revolving door with injuries. Like, do you have to evaluate this season on a more granular and just sort of like what this guy did, what that guy did, instead of, more of a broad approach just because of the unusual nature of everything that went on this year?
Yeah, that is a great question because I'm not sure there's kind of a formula for interpreting a season like this because I don't think it's ever happened before. And obviously, you have the um, COVID protocols and everything that the whole league was struggling with, and then you have our particular set of circumstances where we were littered with injuries and made a series of significant trades at the deadline. So I'm not sure there's a playbook to refer to on this. I think that what we've tried to do is probably just start now to just assess where each guy is on his curve, what he's going to need to get where we want him to be, and that started even with exit interviews yesterday and just hearing from the players' perspective how they interpreted things, but. Um, uh, it's a great question, and it's probably a messier answer than I'd like to give you. But I think that every guy is on his own path right now, and we need to bring everybody together to start to define roles, to understand who everyone's going to be, but also to let guys know that last year is over. Right now, it's about next season and our future. And I can tell you that the sentiment amongst all of our players is extremely optimistic and eager to kind of get into the summer.
And as a follow, I saw the interview you did with the TV during the last game or sometime during the last weekend, and you were asked about Markel and JI, and I know you're hesitant to put timelines on things with JI especially. I mean, is there hope? I mean, I know Markel, it's going to be. I mean, ACLs are what they are, but is there a chance that JI could be ready for the start of next year, or are you not even broadly within that window yet?
Yeah, I really don't. I really, don't drill down on that stuff because Ji missed a season and then he played for a short burst and then he's missed another season. So as I said on that discussion, really what it's about right now and what I always ask our guys, like, are there any setbacks? As long as there are no setbacks, then listen, Ji came back honestly. In a way because he doubled down on his workload the last time that like surprised us. He kind of came out of nowhere. He set his goal and he cleared every hurdle. And now I don't know what that's going to look like, on the back end. But I just know that he's working every day. There have been no setbacks. He has constant check-ins with the performing surgeon and with our medical staff and performance staff, and it's all been good. So I know it's frustrating sometimes to not be able to apply timelines, but I think it's really important that the players know that we are not going to rush them back, that it's going to be done the right way, that they're going to have the utmost confidence that when they step back on the court, it's to perform well. So I hope that's a good enough answer, Tim.
It is. Thanks, Jeff. Good luck this summer.
Thank you.
Dan Savage, OrlandoMagic.com.
Jeff, good to see you. Now that you have a better idea of what you have post trade, along with the rehab process of Markel, JI, the odds that you have in the lottery, just how exciting of a time is it for this team? Kind of having a better understanding of where you guys are at right now.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, look, those trades are hard to make, man. I know that fans get attached to players and we've had a modicum of success. I wouldn't say we've been successful, but we were a playoff team, and you make these trades and you completely change, the identity of your roster and your timeline and your issues and all these things kind of like evolve. Personally, I mean, I can say that in my time here, I've never been more excited about the prospects for our team. Obviously, I think we've raised the ceiling considerably. We've given ourselves a chance. I don't like to ever really discuss lottery odds and that sort of stuff because those are, I always say, those aren't calculated risks. Those are just risks, and we'll just see where that shakes out. But I know this, like we have a chance to add one or maybe even two quality players this year through the draft, and believe wholeheartedly in all of our young players. So I'm really bullish on our future. I really believe that it's a great time to be a Magic fan. I always believe that there's never a more fun time to be a fan than to get on the bandwagon when it's just starting to take off, and I don't apply timelines. I don't know, what one person's development is going to look like juxtaposed next to another, but I just believe that we have a lot of talent on this team and a lot of character and a lot of guys that want to win, and we have a lot of ways to add more of those guys. And some of it will be a little more kind of we'll have to just kind of figure it out as we get there, as opposed to like the last few years we've had a very established, defined, continuity laden roster, and it's been okay. Now we need to add this element, now we need to add this fits better here. We're not there now. We're about developing these young players, establishing their place in the league, establishing the work ethic, establishing winning above individual development. And all of those things are going to occupy our attention. But if you've got the right guys and if you've got talent, you just have to feel good about that. And we do have both of those, and we have significant ways to add more of those guys. So, I'm very excited about where we are set up. And it's about work now. We've got to do work. We've got to get ready for the draft, and that's the next, phase. And then we look towards next season.
Okay, Philip Rossman-Reich, Orlando Magic Daily.
Hey, Jeff, good to see you. Obviously, there were a lot of challenges this season, from COVID protocols to the unseen challenges of the injuries. Was just how this whole season came together with the schedule being as compact as it was that maybe a bigger challenge than maybe you had expected, or how much did that kind of add on to some of the other challenges that you guys faced this year?
Well, I'm speaking for probably everybody in the league now. When I say that, we have never been through a season like this. I can't even tell you guys, even when we were shut down, the amount of work and the amount of learning and the amount of communicating that it took just to kind of just to keep the wheels on the bus, and so. It's been a very, very challenging, intense, frustrating year. And, hopefully we're kind of working our way out of it slowly, carefully. I know the league will do it the right way. And probably, look, I can probably look at you guys and ask you the same question, because I know what it was like for me. It had to be the same for you. I mean, you weren't allowed in our facility. You weren't allowed to be around our guys. And I can't imagine what it's like to cover a team and not actually be around the team. So, I appreciate the fact that you guys went through it as we did, and it wasn't easy, and it's obviously something that none of us want to have to deal with anymore. But we certainly are still dealing with a lot of its issues and components, and we have to make sure that we navigate. Hopefully this is the back end of it, but that we navigate this properly. And the league's given us great guidance. It's been heavy, and it's been a lot to interpret and execute, but it's been necessary. And here we are. We've just gotten through an NBA season, and now they're into the playoffs and they're allowing more fans back in. So it's been a very, very intense year. I've never seen anything like it. I appreciate everyone that's had to go through it, and including you guys.
Josh Robbins, The Athletic.
I forgot to unmute myself again.
You always do that.
I'm an incompetent. What else can I say? Jeff, I'm curious, what did you see from RJ since he arrived with the team and then had his minutes ramp up after that?
Significant improvement. You track these guys, you from pre-draft, and you follow them. And when we started to embark upon the whole concept of, okay, are we going to start to look at some of these trades? That was a guy we targeted. You know, we liked him, and you know, he had played, I think, around 200 minutes. So you're talking about a guy who never played in college and had played 200 minutes in the NBA. Oh, and by the way, you know, I'm remiss because I didn't fully understand. When we traded for him, he had just been coming out of like a COVID restriction where he had been basically like sent to a hotel room in Chicago for a couple of weeks. So he was completely deconditioned. And you know, look, what did I see? What did you guys see? I mean, he got better. I think he's going to continue to get better. He's a worker. He's very talented. You know, I think I hate the concept. I hate the phrase like the game started to slow down. I just think it's like, you know, guys need reps. They need to understand how they fit in. They need, you know, coaches and people around them to message them like, here's how your role will help us win. And the most important thing is that those guys are receptive to hearing that. If they have the talent, have the work ethic, they're receptive to hearing that, I mean, generally good things are going to happen from there. And, you know, what, he was named Rookie of the Month yesterday, and, you know, happy for him for that. Obviously, we've got, you know, much bigger goals than that. But, you know, I think RJ's feeling good about himself. He's going to be around here the whole summer. He's eager to get back to work, and hopefully our fans liked what they saw from him.
Okay, Jamie Say, WKMG.
Hi, Jeff. Just wondering, how would you evaluate how the coaching staff handled the season post-transition? And also wondering if that is going to be your sideline leadership going forward, and how much confidence you have in Coach Clifford and his staff in, you know, developing these young guys.
Yeah, Jamie, thanks. I can't thank those guys enough, and I can't tell you what a good job I think they did. I have to say, when we were discussing these internally, when we were discussing these trades, you know, and you know, we had discussions everywhere across the board with every sort of agenda lined up, and as we always must. And one of the things that we discussed was, it's not the right time to do this. You know, these sorts of kind of like organizational shifts should not be done mid-season. It's not fair to the coaches. It's not fair to, you know, some of the players that remain, and it's not conducive to a real smooth transition to, you know, another phase of your operations. And so, you know, look, what do you do as a coach when all of a sudden, like, you know, your roster changes, your agendas change, your goals change? What can I say? They've done an amazing job. I think, like, you see it in the development. Back to the last question, like RJ Hampton getting better, you know, Cole got better, Chuma got better. I mean, like, I think that, you know, this is part and parcel of having an organization that communicates, and having a coaching staff that, you know, is working for the organization. And so I don't know what to tell you. It's a really difficult thing to do mid-season, to just say we're just making this 180 and we're reprioritizing the way that we work and what matters. And with that, you know, there's no planning that goes into it. By the way, as I'm saying that, we got a game tonight and another one tomorrow, you know, and you know, our coaches, you know, Coach Cliff spends a lot of time on, you know, very specifically delegating minutes and roles and who's on the court with whom and playing groups and, you know, all this. And all of a sudden to have that completely upended, it's not something that you know, probably was fair to put on his plate, in all honesty. But I thought he did an amazing job handling it, as I knew he would. And you know, we move on, and here's where we are now. You know, now we're in a new phase of operations, and now we do have, you know, the proper alignment, you know, in front of us to take the summer to really do this right. And that's going to, you know, I mean, internally we're having discussions about, like, how do we need to change the way that we work a little bit, you know? And so you know, those things will all kind of like evolve over the summer. But, you know, I just come back to the right players, the right character, more abilities to add more, and kind of like going forward from there.
Mike Bianchi, Orlando Sentinel.
Yeah, Jeff, sort of following up on Jamie's question, I think Cliff has, like, I think he's got a year left on his contract. Are there any plans to extend his contract? And also a second part of the question, You said the other night on the telecast, this is the most excited you've been about the Magic since you've been here. Can you sort of elaborate on that and why?
Yeah. Well, Mike, I'm sorry. The first part's going to be an easy answer. I won't discuss that publicly. I will not discuss contract matters with players or coaches or anything publicly. Team policy. I hope you understand, why that has to be the case. I can tell you that, Cliff and I had a nice talk, yesterday. But honestly, all of our guys, all of them, performance, players, coaches, the message is this: get out, go away. We're actually having our court varnished for the next week and a half. So the fumes and whatnot, we will not even be in the office. It's time. This has been such a intense time that, our messaging to everybody is just go away, get away from the Magic, get away from the NBA, be with family, do your thing. And we'll all kind of, hook back up in a week or two, and we'll start to, decompress and compare notes and all that. So, but obviously when you talk about contracts and stuff, I won't, ever get into stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And then Mike, to the second one, man. Yeah, look, I don't know. I feel like I don't ever want to, feel like I'm trying to sell you guys something, but I believe this is the most exciting time to be an Orlando Magic fan. And I'm the most excited since I've been here. And for all the reasons that I've probably said, already a couple times, I think we have a lot of talented young players who are, you think about some of our older guys, Markel, Jonathan, Wendell, Mo, those guys are like 23 or 22, and then like RJ's 20, Cole just turned 21, and Chuma's 22. And it's like these guys are just starting, but like they're starting with talent, they're starting with like a great affinity for one another, and they understand like role orientation. They want to learn how to win. And I think even like in the short time post trade, you saw that, like, and that's one of the things that I'm really most excited about, Mike, is like a lot of times with young teams, and look, we're going to go through growing pains. Don't get me wrong. We are going to go through growing pains, but what you really want to see from young guys is that they really want to learn how to win. They don't want to, talk about like how many points they scored. They want to understand like why what they did that night fell short of winning, if that was the case, And so I think these guys are hungry for that. That's what I always refer back to, the character and the work ethic. And, when you couple that with like the talent and you say like, well, look, we have one, maybe two picks this year. If we don't have two this year, we'll have two next year and the year after, and, I don't know what all that's going to mean, what it's going to look like. And I know, here we go into a rebuild mode again, but I'm very optimistic about this. And I feel like we have more talent on this roster than we've had since I've been here, and the means to add even more. And, it's up to us now to set up our infrastructure in a way that's best suited to developing these young guys, to getting them where we need to get them.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
Joe Kepner, WFTV.
Jeff, good morning. So you mentioned earlier, way earlier, that you are evaluating the players and talking with them about where they got, if they got to where you wanted them to be this season. I'm curious how many of the players and which players you told that they did get to where you wanted them to be this season. And then kind of going on with that, next year, this time next year, where do you hope this franchise is?
Well, the first part, Joe, is you're never where you want to be. I mean, I was having these discussions with Vooch, you got to get to, here's what you got to do next, So no, none of them are where we want them to be. And trust me, if they or we were happy with where they are now, then we're all in the wrong jobs, they got a long way to go. I mean, look, RJ Hampton just won Rookie of the Month. That guy has miles to go, light years, but he understands that and he wants that. And so that's why, to me, that's where, that's what you need to get better. So that's going to continue to evolve, and that's part of like what I say. We have to set up the infrastructure and the right means of doing things, because our goals, priorities, timelines, everything shifts a little bit. As far as next year, it's funny. I honestly wasn't sure exactly what to expect, because whenever you trade for a player, you do your homework, you watch a ton of video, you get your intel, you do your pre-draft reports. What did we think of these players when we really were digging deep? And then you make the deal and you kind of find out, you know, it's then you find out like what you got, you know. And so I was very encouraged in the immediate aftermath of the trade. If you guys remember back, and I wouldn't expect you to, but you know, we beat the Pelicans, we beat the Clippers, we gave the Lakers a game, and then we got our butts handed to us by Utah, and we gave Denver a game. We took them down to the final few possessions. And there was a fit. There was a kind of I think a role orientation that kind of just maybe like peaked out a little bit, and that kind of like gave us a little hope. And then listen, let's be real. Like after that, then you lose like MCW, you know, James Ennis, T. Ross. I mean, you lose all of our vet guys, Otto. You know, you lose all these guys, and I hate to lean on that as a crutch, but you know, I don't know what we would have been. I really believe maybe we could have competed for that playing spot, you know, had all of those vet guys stayed healthy. I really don't know. But I know that first road trip was encouraging. And to answer your question, you know, I'm never going to set like a hard goal about this. I expect us to be competitive. You know, I think that a lot of times what happens in these seasons, I hate to say this, is you come to the end of these seasons and they get really ugly, and then they're compounded with all of the injuries that we had, and half the players we had on the court had been there, you know, for a few weeks and like didn't know each other, didn't know what we were doing. And you know, I know that I don't need to say this to you guys, but that ain't the Orlando Magic. You know, that's not the team we're bringing back next year. You know, we're gonna be talented, we're gonna be hungry, and we're gonna, I believe, be competitive. And I'm telling you that one of the things that matters to me, I believe in this league that matters, is that the players believe that it's not just today. It's like, and we're going to keep getting better and better. And you can feel the organizations. You can feel when you're playing young teams that believe that. They keep coming. That's who I hope that we can be next year.
Okay, Jake Chapman, Orlando Magic Audio Network.
Hey, Jeff, you mentioned before that in the past couple off seasons, the plan was a lot more specific. You knew what you had, you knew what you were going out and trying to target. Does that mean that moving forward, or at least this off season, there will be a little less of an emphasis on fit, on positional fit? Are you just going to go out and try to get the most talented guys in?
I mean, that's a great question, because the answer is always, you know, the draft is about talent. And, you know, you guys always ask, are you going to, you know, pick the best available? And it's a yes, you know, and sometimes it fits and sometimes it doesn't. You know, we are in a very interesting position right now. We have some free agents. You know, we're not going to have, you know, 15 guys 23 and under on our team next year. We're going to have some veteran players, as we did when we first made the trade, that can be on the court and help us establish a way for the young guys to slot in and understand like how their roles are going to grow. And so we will look to do that. And obviously it's a really difficult question to answer, because I'll just say this, we have to bear that in mind for sure, but we don't even know if we're going to have 1 or 2 picks right now. That's how kind of like early in the process it is. You know, soon, in about a month, we'll know where we're picking. Is it 1 pick or 2 picks? You know, and then we'll start to understand a little bit, okay, now how can the draft fit into our roster building? And then, you know, free agency even a little bit. So it's a great question, and it will be an important question. I will say that for sure, it'll be less so than in past years. You know, in past years, well, we've got this guy slotted in here, this many minutes, blah, blah, blah. And so it was like, it was a puzzle that was mostly done in previous seasons. Like you had a few jigsaw pieces to squeeze in, but by and large, it was pretty much, you know, a completed puzzle. Whereas now it is more fluid a little bit. So I mean, and so it does become a relevant part of our summer discussions, and we'll discuss that, you know, in depth as we kind of like head into the draft and beyond.
Pat Welter, Spectrum Sports.
Jeff, as you just mentioned, you don't even know where you're picking or if you will have 1 or 2 picks. But, you know, in this early stage, where are you at in the draft evaluation process, and how do you view this class? I know, you know, kind of the group think right now is that maybe it's a 5-player draft, but you hear that kind of thing every year, and it changes as the players actually play in the league. So how do you view it, and where are you at?
Yeah, well, that's a great point. it's very seldom that you look back 10 years later and I think by and large, the league does a pretty good job, and increasingly so as the years tick on and we apply more layers and sophistication to the draft. I think we do a better job, but there are always going to be like those gaps and those misses, So, but yeah, look, right now I can tell you this: our guys have been working round the clock like this year, and I would say this is the closest that we can feel to what you guys must feel, because as I said earlier, you guys are trying to cover a team that you can't be around. We're trying to draft players that we have not been able to see this year. And I'm not going to lie, it's hard. It's hard. I felt even last year, we all got sent home, during the conference tournaments. Things got shut down. There were no agent workouts, no player visits, no meaningful Chicago camp. So like all of that was like taken away, but at least we had, this like body of work to lean on. We had this ability to have seen these guys live, even see, the old expression, like you're a freshman in November and you're a sophomore in March, even be able to see some of that, none of that this year. I mean, it's all out the window. We made a very brief trip, Matt and John and I, to cover like the first round of the tournament and try to lay eyes on as many prospects as we were able to. But it's a challenge. So what we've done is, sorry to speak too long on this, but what we've done is we've been working all year. We've been working off video. We've been having discussions. We're starting to put our guys into tiers and try to understand who they are. And now we're hopeful. We're getting some guidance from the league that we'll be able to have in Chicago, have some guys in for visits, and maybe that becomes heightened importance. And we're even discussing, we don't want to overemphasize that. If we only value that as X% of the process before, we can't overly value that just because we weren't able to do this other. So we're having those discussions. But I can tell you that we've been talking about players throughout the whole draft, throughout the whole season, and watching video. And as a matter of fact, I have a meeting today for a few hours with our BOps crew to have another draft discussion. So it's something that we've been working on. I'm sure every team has, and it's just been done differently this year. And hopefully we'll be able to come into the draft with the same level of confidence that we typically do. And I believe that we will, but it's just going to take a little extra work, and hopefully we'll get some guys in for visits.
Okay, we have time for a few more. We'll get to most of the group here. Darren Stolfus, Wesh.
Hey, Jeff. Steve said something about this being the toughest coach or the toughest year coaching wise of his career. How would you describe just everything that went on in the past season? I know it's all about the future, but looking back.
Not even close. Not even close. I mean, I hate to even increase his burden by doing what we did mid-season, in addition to everything else we're dealing with and the injuries, to kind of like, flip the script on him mid-season. So I probably didn't help in that regard. But I can tell you from our seat, from my seat, it's just been relentless, man. It's just been relentless, and dealing with COVID protocols and I think that's something that hasn't been discussed in a while, but is every bit as important to our league is raising the awareness of our social injustice platforms, and that's been something that we've worked on, and obviously what we've been through, and I can't tell you guys, like even like the simple socialization on the road of not being able to like get your food and eat in the meal room. Every time you're getting a brown bag and you're taking it back to your room, and it's just heavy. And the players, they have to test twice every day, have to get up. We can get back at 3 a.m. They got to get up at 8 and get in the next morning and then test before practice or the game. And managing everybody's own ability to kind of like handle this differently, and to communicate all of the protocols and keep everybody tied together and keep them believing. And and for me to even, I'm sitting here sometimes throughout the season, just why am I even in this Zoom where I'm listening to doctors talk about COVID, and and I'm just but these are the things that we all need to be aware of and learn the numbers and hear the science, and because we need to bring it back because our guys want to know, so we have a responsibility to our players, to our staff, to keep them safe and let them know, like, here's why this is being done. But I just can't speak the extra layers of work, of information to manage, of communication layers that were brought about, and then to have gone through what we went through, with our injuries first, and then the trades, and then more injuries, just trying to keep us all attached like this, because this is who we've been and it's who we will continue to be. But yeah, it was a very intense season, and right now our guys need to just go away and be with their families and exhale.
Okay, we're gonna do these final 4 questions, and then we got to get Jeff moving. Brandon Kravitz, 96.9 The Game.
Hey Jeff, it's been a few years since this team has had the cap space to really be aggressive in free agency. You've spent a lot of your time here re-signing the guys that were already on the roster. Do you plan to be aggressive in free agency this year?
Well, I think it's all tied together. Everything is like interconnected. So like I like to know like how many draft picks we're gonna have, what picks we're gonna have before I'm able to kind of like get to like the end game of like where we look at in free agency. I'll say this though, one of the teams that we were discussing when we were having discussions about Vooch is a team that has multiple draft picks, and one of the things that they said was, we're not quite sure that our roster is ready to kind of push our chips to the middle of the table right now. And so I feel that part of this has to evolve a little bit, so look, if there becomes like an opportunity for us to do something significant in free agency, we will never say no to that. And we will suss out all of those opportunities, but that said, we have to work very sensitively towards the new timeline that we've established and the path that each of these players are on. And so it's not like a yes or no answer, because it's not a yes or no answer. It's very much interconnected to all these other things, and we'll have to just figure that out as we go. But to me, it's just having the room. I don't know what form or fashion that takes. Having the flexibility, having the extra picks. Generally good things will happen, and we'll have to take those on a case-by-case basis. I will say this as well, and then I'll get off. But, we've been in a position the last few years where these questions were so hard for us. They were so hard for us because we're trying to win now, but we're also trying to develop young guys. And for the first time since I've been here, I feel so much more at ease with just our path. We have a much more clearly defined path right now. So will we be aggressive with free agency? Yes, if it fits into what we're trying to do. And now there's a more, some of those questions will be able to answer themselves much more easily than in seasons gone by.
Keith Smith, Yahoo.
Hey, Jeff, good morning. When you talk about that, to build on that a little bit, how important when you made those trades, obviously the goal is to get in young talent and add draft picks, but how important was it to kind of clean up the cap sheet for years moving forward? In addition, how much does it mean to you that the franchise's leadership from ownership on down has entrusted you to shepherd this team through another rebuild?
It's everything. That's a short answer. It's everything. You can't win in this league without that, and we have the best ownership in the league. And in all honesty, it's part of the reason that I came. And I knew that going in, and to work for Alex Martins and to work for the DeVos family, and know that I have the support and I have all the means at our disposal to execute our plans. Without that, you got no shot. So it's everything.
Rob Parks, 48minutes.com.
Hey Jeff, how you doing? So you talked about this a little bit as far as the free agency, but I'm just interested in your plans as far as the young players go this offseason, from summer league to training to working out in Orlando. Like, how crucial is the summer for the team's success if they want to turn this thing around quickly?
That's a great question. It's paramount, and it's something that we've talked about with all of our guys. And look, when you say to a player, we want you around this summer, we want you to be here. That doesn't mean we want you to be here 24/7, 365. Like, you can't do that. The season is too intense. You know, once you get rolling, it's like we're all, you know, they say, you know, NBA is like a family. Some of that is true, some of it's not. But the fact of the matter is, like, we want them here most of the time. We want them doing the work together, you know, and with our group. And so those guys are committed to that. Now, from our end of things, here's where, you know, we're taking a little time to, you know, reassess, because we've had a different set of circumstances, you know, different guidelines, different goals maybe. So we have to think ourselves, like, how do we best serve these guys? How do we best set up their summer? And that's some of the stuff that we're working towards now. Because you know, this isn't the same agenda. It's not the same team that we had, you know, 6 months ago. So we go into the summer, and the most important thing is we have the commitment, we have the buy-in, we have the belief, we have the hunger to understand how to win from all of our young guys, and they will all be here. They will all be here this summer. And you know, I've been on a lot of teams where that's not the case. So, you know, they're all buying in, they're all excited, and now we have to give them the best platform, the best daily program for, you know, how to get them into the season and well beyond.
Lou Ketrick, Spectrum Sports.
Hey, Jeff, over the past couple of years, you've acquired or drafted guys that have a significant injury history. Given what happened this year and even the year before with the injuries, how does that impact how you scout a potential prospect or even evaluate guys that you already have on the roster?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, I'll say that some of the guys that we brought in didn't have an injury history. They just developed one, unfortunately, and some did, and some you know, did, and you kind of, like, obviously, I always say on draft day and on trade deadline day, the doctors are the GMs. You know, if they tell us to stay away from somebody, we stay away, and that's how we'll continue to work. I think it's of paramount importance that we have an elite performance department, and I believe that we do, and I know that our players believe that we do. And so, but those are always considerations. You know, every year, you know, from as long as I've been in the league, the docs will come in, you know, a week before the draft, and you'll go through every single guy, and you give them kind of a list of guys that you're particularly interested in, so that when they go to Chicago, they get to, you know, probe a little more deeply, and they give you the rundown. Like, here's where he is, here's what we see, here are the issues that he may have, and, you know, we're comfortable with this, we're a little uneasy about this, or red flag this. So that's just part of, like, the draft process. I don't think we're any different than other teams. We just happen to have had this crazy string of bad luck. I mean, honestly, I never like to use those words, and you guys know me. I try not to ever fall on an excuse, but, you know, it's funny. One of the things that was put in front of me was I was shown all the games missed due to injury for the last 5 years. You know, this is something that our analytics guys produced. And so imagine the top 3 for the last 5 years. So you got like 15 slots, okay? So I won't say the team, but there was one team 5 years ago and 4 years ago that was third place. They were third place in the league, games missed to injury, 5 years ago, 4 years ago. Other than that, all of the other 15 slots, not one duplication of team. It's 13 different teams. And that's just the way this goes, you know? It's not like because this happened this year, it's gonna happen next year. It's just, you know, we got steamrolled this year, you know? And so obviously that's something that, you know, as I always say, we're gonna take our time with. We're not gonna rush guys back. We're gonna do everything we can to, you know, get ourselves back to full strength. But, you know, it has to be a part of any discussion that you make with trades and drafting, and you have to weigh the risk reward. And you know, I just look forward to having a healthy, talented group back on the floor soon.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jeff. And thank you, everyone, for your patience during the season.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you.